I have catalogued over 400 distinct definitions of fear. The primal dread of the Gulian facing starvation. The existential terror of the Silic confronting their own reflection. I was the galaxy's foremost expert on what breaks a mind. But that was before the day I stood with humans and discovered real terror. My office aboard the Dalek research vessel Empirical Truth was a monument to order. Every datapad aligned, every specimen labeled in triplicate. The air recycled at precisely 21.7 degrees Celsius, with 43% humidity, optimal for cognitive function. I was Lev Tarsus, and I was about to make the worst decision of my organized life. Station Anathema, I explained to my department head, is a unique opportunity. A civilizational collapse via ideological contagion. The Atakar death cult tried to weaponize fear itself. They failed. The station has been silent for a century. My superior's cranial ridges flushed purple with skepticism.
And you propose to physically enter this monument to madness?
It is perfectly safe, I assured him, pulling up bioscan data. No life signs, no energy signatures, just a dead station full of dead cultists. An archaeological gold mine. The holograms showed Station Anathema, a massive structure that defied architecture. Part organism, part machine, all nightmare. Even in sterile analysis, its geometry made my secondary eyelids twitch.
Very well, but you'll need transport to those classified coordinates. No reputable crew will...
Already arranged. I minimized the communication before he could see what crew I'd hired. Some details were better left unshared. 3 days later, I stood on Docking Bay 38 as my transportation arrived. The Moon Dog Marauder didn't so much dock as narrowly avoid crashing. Its hull was a patchwork of mismatched metals held together by industrial adhesive and spite. One engine coughed up black smoke that formed patterns I'd rather not interpret. The ship's nameplate was welded on upside down, and someone had drawn a smiley face in the suit on the viewport. The cargo ram lowered with a grinding screech. A human woman strode down, wiping grease-stained hands on pants that might have been white when humanity first achieved spaceflight. She grinned, revealing a gold tooth, and extended a hand that could punch through hull plating.
Dr. Tarsus, Captain Jules Vega. Friends call me Junkyard.
She grabbed my hand before I could offer the traditional Dalek greeting of mutual avoidance.
Welcome aboard the finest semi-functional ship in the sector.
Semi-functional?
Hey, we've only crashed twice this month. That's a record.
She paused.
Well, twice, we remember. A tripwire says there might have been a third time, but we were all pretty drunk.
Before I could reconsider my life choices, she was hauling me up the ramp. The interior was worse. Exposed wiring hung from the ceiling, occasionally sparking in patterns that looked like obscenities in binary. What might have been a life support console was held together by chewing gum, prayer, and a disturbing amount of tape. The walls were covered in technical readouts, warning signs, and crayon drawings of explosions. One section was simply labeled, "Do not touch," with tally marks underneath tracking incidents. There were a lot of tally marks. The crew was in a common area, a space that served as kitchen, medbay, and shrine to some deity of chaos. A muscular human male was arguing with the vending machine.
"I gave you 5 credits!"
he shouted, brandishing a combat knife.
"You owe me a protein bar, you mechanical piece of..."
The vending machine beeped. Somehow, I sounded smug.
"That's Connor,"
Jules explained, stepping over a disassembled engine.
"Ship's demolitions expert and part-time marriage counselor. Don't ask."
"I'm excellent at both."
Connor called out, now trying to pick the machine's lock with his knife.
Explosions in relationships both require careful timing and accepting collateral damage.
A woman with wild auburn hair looked up from a datapad titled Sentient Fungal Colonies and You. A love story. She was sitting in a command chair held together by duct tape and bungee cords.
Dr. Maddie Knox. She introduced herself. Astrobiologist, amateur chef, and the only reason these idiots haven't died of space scurvy.
Space scurvy isn't real,
Connor protested, finally liberating a protein bar.
That's what Castillo said before his teeth fell out.
Maddie shot back.
Castillo's teeth fell out because he tried to bite through a whole plate.
Because he had space scurvy and was hallucinating.
The final crew member was passed out under a console, a jack cable running from his temple to the coffee maker, which had been clearly modified to have a data port. He was muttering about the data stream tasting like purple and Wednesdays being too loud.
Tripwire,
Jules said, nudging him with her boot. He didn't stir.
Best pilot in 3 systems, assuming he's conscious.
Is he all right? I asked, as his eyes moved in patterns matching the blinking lights on the coffee maker.
Define all right.
Jules shrugged.
He's breathing, the ship's flying, and we haven't hit anything important recently, so it's all right in my book.
I can hear the ship's streams.
Tripwire mumbled.
She wants to be a butterfly.
I was beginning to understand why they were the only crew willing to take my job. The journey to Station Anathema took 4 days that redefined my understanding of chaos. Day 1. Connor taught the ship's AI to swear in 18 languages. The AI retaliated by speaking only in haiku for 6 hours. Connor considered this an improvement. Day 2. Maddie fermented space wine from recycled protein paste, and something she claimed was probably yeast. The smell alone violated treaties.
Nothing like a good drink before facing cosmic horror, she said.
Day 3. No. Day 4. The crew watched ancient Earth horror films they were calling training videos. They spent the time critiquing the monster's tactics.
You see, that's where the alien messed up,
Connor explained, pointing at the screen.
You don't go for the tough guy first. You eat the smart one, right? And then everyone else just runs around screaming, ah.
Nah.
Maddie disagreed.
You take out the comic relief. Nothing kills morale faster.
You're all wrong, Jules interjected.
You go for whoever's about to have sex. That's tradition.
They turned to me expectantly. I would file a complaint with the supervisor. They laughed for 10 straight minutes. And when we finally dropped out of hyperspace, even the humans fell silent. Station Anathema hung before us like a cancer against the stars. It hadn't been constructed, it had been cultivated. Dark metal twisted with organic, rib-like curves. Bone-white protrusions jutted out at painful angles. The entire structure pulsed with a faint internal light, as if breathing. Worse, space around it was wrong. Stars seemed dimmer near it. Debris floated in perfect spirals. The scanner picked up equations that had no solutions.
Well,
Connor said, breaking the silence.
That's not ominous at all.
The Atakar believed in the marriage of flesh and technology. I explained, my professionalism fighting every instinct to run. They saw the boundary between organic and synthetic as an illusion.
I bet that made dating complicated,
Maddie mused, preparing sample containers. I stared at my scanner. The energy readings they're wrong. The station isn't dormant. It's waiting.
Waiting for what?
Jules asked. Visitors. Jules was all business now.
Tripwire, take us in slow. Connor, prep the breach charges.
Maddie, get your sample kits. Doc. She turned to me. Are you sure about this? I looked at the nightmare station. My life's work made manifest. My academic side said yes. My survival instincts screamed no. Absolutely certain. It's good enough for me, Jules clapped. Let's go poke the haunted death station. Should we have a plan? I suggested weakly. We have a plan, Connor said, hefting a bag of explosives. Step 1, go inside. Step 2, don't die. Step 3, if step 2 fails, blow everything up. That's not a plan. Welcome to human exploration, Doc. Jules grinned. We've been using that plan since we figured out fire. It's worked out pretty well so far. We approached the docking port. A massive wound in the station's side, its edges pulsing. As we drew closer, it dilated, revealing a glistening interior. Anyone else feel like we're about to be eaten? I asked.
Nah,
Connor said.
I've been eaten before. This is way too polite for that.
I decided not to ask for clarification. The Moondog Marauder slid into the organic bay with a wet squelch. Umbilical connections didn't click into place. They grew. Flesh metal tendrils wrapping around our ship. Okay, that is definitely creepy, Maddie admitted. In a fascinating I need samples kind of way. Standard rules apply, Jules announced, checking her plasma cutter. Stay together, don't touch anything Connor hasn't, and if someone tries to eat you, make sure Maddie gets a tissue sample first. For science! Maddie cheered. For science! The others echoed with disturbing enthusiasm. The airlock dilated with a sound like a dying breath. The air that rushed in smelled of static, copper, and sweet rot. My nostril slits sealed automatically.
Woof! Smells like my aunt's cooking,
Connor commented. God, I miss family dinners. Your aunt cooked with static discharge? I asked.
Uncle Frank was an electrician. Accidents happened.
We entered single file, Jules leading with her plasma cutter. Our footsteps were absorbed by the flesh-metal hybrid floor. The corridor breathed. The walls expanded and contracted in a slow, hypnotic rhythm. Okay, this is quite disturbing, I whispered. The walls, they are watching us. What I'd first taken for patterns were eyes, hundreds of them, different sizes and colors, all tracking our movement.
Hey there, walleyes!
Connor waved.
Nice to meet you.
Some of the eyes blinked.
Connor, don't antagonize the architecture.
Jules sighed.
I'm being friendly. Right, wall buddies?
The eyes blinked again. A few seemed to wave back.
See? Friendly.
That's when we found the first bodies. The Atakar had been humanoid once, but death had been creative. Bodies were fused into the walls, flesh integrated with the station's biomechanical nervous system. Some had too many limbs, arms splitting into fractal branches. Others were reduced to a mouth here, an eye there, all still functioning, all still aware. They were smiling. Fascinating, I breathed, pulling out my scanner. The integration is perfect. They aren't just attached, they're a part of its nervous system. The synaptic pathways are still active. They're still thinking. That's nice, Jules said, stepping around a hand that was definitely trying to grab her ankle. Let's not join them. They've achieved the perfect fusion of organic and synthetic consciousness. They've become part of something larger.
Doc.
Connor interrupted.
That one's trying to tell me something.
It was crouched next to a face emerging from the floor. Its mouth was moving, forming words that hurt to hear. What's it saying? Jules asked. Connor listened, then shrugged.
Either join us in eternal unity or the cafeteria's closed. My Adakar's rusty.
How can you confuse those two concepts?
You'd be surprised.
We pressed deeper. Every corridor was a new nightmare. Doors were sphincters. The lights, patches of luminous flesh, pulsed in sigils that suggested meaning, but delivered only madness. My scanner was failing. It showed that we were simultaneously in an Arctic wasteland and a fusion reactor. The electromagnetic spectrum included colors that shouldn't exist.
Getting anything useful?
Jules asked. Evidence that this place hates consistent physical laws. I replied. Also, we're being followed.
Yeah, noticed that.
Connor said casually.
You think it's shy?
Our follower stayed at the edge of perception, a shadow that moved wrong. Sometimes it had too many dimensions, sometimes not enough. Should we be worried? I asked.
Nah,
Maddie said, making notes.
If it wanted to eat us, it would have by now. It's probably just curious.
Curious about what?
Why we're not screaming yet.
That was a good point. Every surface was designed to inspire terror. The geometry was hostile to sanity. The very air whispered threats. And yet the humans were treating it like an interesting museum.
Ooh, look!
Maddie exclaimed, pointing to a wall covered in mathematical equations written in bodily fluids.
They're trying to calculate the exact frequency of fear. You see how the equations get more frantic? They were testing on themselves.
That's horrible, I said.
That is dedication to science,
she countered.
Unethical, sure, but you can't argue with their methodology. Look, they even included error margins.
We entered a large chamber that was once a laboratory or a temple. The walls were lined with pods, each containing a person that had been improved. Extra eyes, additional cerebral tissue, limbs designed for other dimensions. In the center was a pillar of fused bodies and a double helix of flesh. At its apex was a figure, perhaps the lead researcher. Its skull was open like a flower, brain tissue blooming outward in fractal patterns. It was still conscious. Its 6 eyes tracked us. "Welcome," it said, its voice coming from a dozen mouths scattered around the room. "We have waited so long for new thoughts."
Hi there!
Connor waved.
Nice place. It's very organic.
The priestling's eyes dilated. "You are not afraid."
Should we be?
Jones asked.
No offense, but we've seen worse. Do you remember Keto 6, Connor? Oh man, yeah, the one with all the tongues?
And the singing.
Ah, the singing, yeah. At least you folks keep it to, like, creepy whispers.
The priestling sounded petulant. "We spent centuries perfecting the architecture of fear. Every angle is calculated to induce maximum psychological distress."
Yeah, now we noticed.
Maddie said, scraping samples from a pod.
It's great work on the non-Euclidean geometry. Really sells the whole abandoning sanity vibe, you know?
"Then why aren't you screaming?" The humans exchanged glances.
Well,
Jules said slowly.
Have you considered that we're just not that bright?
"I beg your finest pardon?"
Well, you designed this place to break intelligent minds by showing them the futility of logic, right? What if we're, like, too dumb to get it? Can't break what's already broken.
The priestling's many mouths opened and closed.
Plus,
Connor added,
We got cable TV back on Earth. After reality television, cosmic horror doesn't really hit the same.
That's when things went wrong. The room shuddered. The carefully maintained horror flickered, revealing a desperate loneliness. A scream that no one had heard for a century. Now, it had guests who treated it like a roadside attraction.
"You should be terrified,"
the priest thing insisted, its voice cracking.
"Gave everything to create this place. We became fear itself."
Cool.
Connor said.
Hey, do you want some gum? Your breath kind of stank.
He held out a pack of something violently pink. The priest thing stared at it.
"Is it strawberry flavored?"
Supposedly. Tastes more like industrial cleaner, but like in a good way.
A tendril of flesh extruded from the wall, delicately taking a piece. The priest thing chewed with an auxiliary mouth.
"This is indeed terrible,"
it confirmed.
"Thank you."
It's no problem. Hey, you guys got anything to eat? Like besides people, I mean?
The absurdity struck me. We were in a station designed to birth dark gods, and Connor was asking for snacks. The horror was crumbling under human mundanity. The priest thing seemed to realize it too.
"You're ruining everything,"
it said, like a child whose game was interrupted.
Sorry,
Jules said, not sounding sorry.
if it helps, we can pretend to be scared.
"Would you?"
Sure.
She gave a half-hearted scream.
Oh no! Horror! Whatever shall we do?
"You're not even trying."
Ooh, I said that we'd pretend, not that we'd be good at it.
Our follower finally revealed itself, flowing into the room like liquid shadow. It was a huge, writhing mass of darkness, teeth, eyes, and hands with too many joints. I screamed, a primal sound of pure Dalek terror. The humans turned to look.
Oh, hey!
Connor said.
There you are. I were wondering when you'd show up.
The shadow thing paused, clearly not expecting this.
Is it supposed to be scary?
Maddie asked.
Because the asymmetry's really bothering me. You pick a number of eyes and stick with it.
The creature writhed, extruding more teeth.
Ooh, better.
Maddie nodded.
It's more symmetrical. No.
Connor disagreed.
Nah, the asymmetry out of character. Are you kidding? It looked like it got dressed in the dark.
As they argued about the aesthetic merits of cosmic horror, the shadow thing was shrinking. Not retreating, but diminishing, as if their critique was draining its power. The priest thing noticed it too.
"Stop that! You're ruining the horror!"
We're helping.
Connor protested.
What if we added some spikes? Now, spikes are always scary. Spikes are overdone.
Maddie countered.
What about tentacles? Boys.
Jules interrupted.
You're both wrong. It needs motivation. Right. Why are you scary?
She asked the shadow thing.
What's your deal?
The creature paused.
My feet on fear.
Okay, but why? Bad childhood? Trying to impress someone?
I don't know. It's just what I do.
Well, there's your problem.
Jules said.
You need purpose. Have you considered other careers?
Other careers?
Sure. With shape-shifting skills like that, you could do anything. Entertainment, construction, massage therapy.
Massage therapy?
Think about it. All those hands, you would make a killing.
The shadow thing brightened, its form becoming less dark. I never thought about it that way. The priest thing was trying to scream, but it had forgotten how, somehow.
This was not how this was supposed to go! We are the harbingers of madness! We are the architects of fear! We are the...
Really lonely?
Maddie suggested gently. Silence fell.
No.
The priest thing said, its voice small now, from only one mouth.
We've transcended it. When was the last time that someone visited?
She pressed.
73 years, 4 months, 18 days.
It admitted.
But who's counting?
The shadow thing had reformed, looking less like a nightmare and more like a confused piece of modern art.
I've been alone too. Everyone who comes here either dies or runs away. No one ever just talks.
Well, you're talking now,
Connor said.
You want to see something cool? I can juggle grenades. Connor, no.
Jules said automatically.
Connor, yes.
He pulled 3 spherical objects from his bag and began juggling. Are those active? I asked, noting the blinking lights.
Probably.
One of the grenades slipped, hitting the floor with a thud. Everyone froze. Nothing happened.
See?
Connor grinned.
Safe.
The grenade beeped once and exploded in a cloud of glitter, covering everything. The priest thing's brain flower now sparkled festively.
Glitter bombs,
Connor explained.
for parties.
This is not a party!
The priest thing protested.
It is now.
Maddie pulled out a container.
I got the space wine.
The humans turned the Temple of Horror into a party. Maddie's wine tasted like regret and brake fluid. Connor taught the shadow thing card tricks. Jules and the priest thing got into a deep discussion about the nature of fear.
You see, you've got the physiological response wrong,
Jules explained.
Racing heart, dilated pupils, adrenaline. You think that's fear. But that's also excitement, arousal, indigestion.
But the context...
Context is subjective. One person's nightmare is another person's Friday night.
I found myself drinking the space wine. The station was still horrifying, but the humans had transformed it from a source of terror into a backdrop. The really terrifying thing? I was starting to see it that way as well. You know, I said, I spent years studying fear. The attackers spent centuries perfecting it, but humans just ignore it.
We don't ignore it,
Maddie corrected.
We just have different priorities. Sure, this place is creepy, but have you seen like rent prices in the core worlds? That is scary, you know what I mean? Yeah, cost of living is a real cosmic terror.
Connor agreed solemnly. The shadow thing, now vaguely shaped like a person with too many elbows, raised an appendage. What's rent? The explanation of human economics left both the shadow thing and the priest thing genuinely disturbed.
So, you voluntarily submit to this?
The priest thing asked, horrified.
No, not voluntarily, no.
Jules laughed.
But what's the alternative, right? Living in a flesh station dedicated to fear?
That's when the station shuddered violently. The eyes in the walls rolled back. What's happening? I asked. The priest thing's expression was one of dawning horror.
It's waking up.
What's waking up?
The Nexus. Our God. The consciousness we birthed from our collective fear. It has been dormant, feeding on our minds. But you are not afraid. You are enjoying yourselves. It is confused.
Confused is better than hungry,
Connor said.
You don't understand. The Nexus is born from pure terror. It has never encountered minds like yours. It will try to understand you. And when it can't, it will try to remake reality into something that makes sense. A universe where your kind cannot exist. The humans exchanged glances.
So... Connor said slowly. We broke your god's brain by being too stupid to be scared?
Essentially, yes.
Awesome. You think he wants to learn card tricks too?
The Nexus spoke to me first, not with words. It slipped between my thoughts, showing me visions of cosmic emptiness, the heat death of the universe, the last star winking out, the fundamental meaninglessness of existence in a single soul-crushing moment. I dropped to my knees. The space wine didn't help.
Doc?
Jules knelt beside me.
Are you all right?
The station? I gasped. It isn't dead, it's...
Hungry. Maddie finished, looking at her datapad with interest. These readings are insane. The entire structure is one massive synaptic network, and it just woke up. More importantly,
Connor added, helping me up.
Is it friendly?
The psychic pressure increased as the Nexus rifled through my memories. It found my years of study, my categorization of fear, my pristine office. And then it found the last 4 days with the humans. The pressure recoiled.
What's wrong?
Jules asked. It's in my head, I explained. It's trying to understand us. But when it touched the memories of you all, I think I gave it a headache.
The priest thing laughed, a sound like grinding glass.
The Nexus has consumed hundreds of ordered, logical minds. Minds that understood fear. But yours, your minds are beautiful, terrible chaos.
As if to prove the point, Connor's thoughts leaked through our psychic link. He was simultaneously thinking about making a shaped charge out of glitter. The lyrics to a song entirely about human gluteals and the Terran Unictus Marinus. A complex equation for explosive yields. What would happen if he taught the shadow thing to juggle? Worrying he'd left an oven on back on the ship. The philosophy of pizza as a universal constant. I felt the Nexus struggle, like a computer trying to divide by zero while calculating the value of purple.
Is it just me, or,
Mary said.
Was the station getting warmer?
The walls were glistening with condensation that looked like sweat. It is having a panic attack, the priest thing realized. The god is having a panic attack.
Well, we've all been there,
Jules said sympathetically.
First time I did taxes, I hid under a bunk for 3 days.
The shadow thing, still glittery, raised a tentative appendage. Should we help it? Help the cosmic horde that wants to eat our minds? I asked.
I mean, well, when you put it like that, it does sound bad,
Connor admitted.
But it just woke up to find weirdos having a party in its house. I'd be confused too.
The station shuddered again, and this time I heard a sound like a billion voices trying to scream but forgetting how. The walls shifted, reforming into crude approximations of human faces, but wrong. Explain yourselves.
We're humans,
Jules said.
On a salvage run. Do you want some space wine?
That explains nothing.
Yeah, we get that a lot,
Connor agreed.
So what's your deal? Eating minds, spreading fear, the usual?
The faces rippled with frustration. We are fear incarnate. We are the ending of hope. We are...
Lonely, Maddie interrupted. You are lonely, just like your friends here.
The entire station went still. We are beyond loneliness. We are beyond.
How long have you been asleep?
Jules asked gently. Time has no meaning in the deep.
So, a really long time then?
Yes.
And in all that time, how many visitors have you had who didn't run away screaming or die horribly?
Their faces began to melt. None. But that is the point. Fear isolates. Fear.
Fear sucks.
Connor said bluntly.
Sure, it's useful sometimes, but, mostly, it just makes you miss out on the cool things.
Cool things?
Yeah. I was terrified the first time I made a bomb. But then I thought, what if it works? And it did. It blew a hole right through the mess hall. Confined to the quarters for a week, but it was totally worth it.
You found joy in destruction?
Found joy in creation. The destruction was just a side effect.
The Nexus seemed to consider this. The station began to change. Walls sprouting new configurations. Some horrifying, some whimsical. One wall grew what looked like flowers made of teeth and suffering.
It's actually kind of pretty,
Maddie said.
in a deeply disturbing way.
Really? The Nexus sounded pathetically hopeful.
Oh yeah, very avant-garde. Real death and rebirth energy.
The tooth flowers bloomed wider with apparent pride. I watched in awe and horror. The humans were socializing the cosmic entity like an awkward teenager at its first party. This is insane, I muttered.
Doc's right.
Jules announced.
This is insane. We're talking to a fear god in a flesh station while drinking brake fluid moonshine. I have had worse Thursdays. Is it Thursday?
Connor asked.
Thought it was Monday.
Time is an illusion, Tripwire said suddenly. We'd forgotten he was there. The station exists in 13 dimensions. It's always Thursday here. And also, never. Thursday is everything.
You okay, buddy?
Jules asked. I can taste the walls thinking. He replied dreamily. They think in colors that smell like regret. The Nexus had been silent, but I could feel his attention. It was studying them, trying to understand how their minds worked. Or rather, how they randomly fired in directions that occasionally produced results. Show me, the Nexus said. Show me what you are.
I'll go first.
Connor stepped forward.
I'm Connor Rios. I like explosions, terrible jokes, and that moment that you're not sure if something's gonna work, but then you just try it anyway. I am terrified of bees, because one got stuck in my hair when I was 5. I once hallucinated my shoes were plotting against me, and they might have been.
The faces blinked. Why share your fears so freely?
'Cause they're funny. You can't be scared of something you're laughing at. I am Dr. Madeline Knox,
Maddie said.
I have 3 PhDs, and I've been kicked out of 5 universities for unethical research, which is academic for too interesting. I love life in all its forms, especially the gross ones, and I keep a collection of parasites named after ex-boyfriends. My biggest fear is being boring.
Boring? The Nexus sounded puzzled. You fear boredom more than death.
Death is just another change.
Maddie shrugged.
Boring is a waste of existence.
Jules stepped up.
Captain Jules Vega. Crashed more ships than I've landed, but never lost a crew member. My biggest fear is letting down the people who trust me. And also clowns.
Clowns?
Don't ask.
My turn, Tripwire announced, suddenly lucid. I'm Tripwire. I forgot my real name, being honest. I feel data streams like physical objects. Sometimes I forget what reality is real. Now my biggest fear is that none of them are. Or that all of them are. Or that the difference doesn't really matter. And also Wednesdays. Wednesdays feel so wrong.
The Nexus was silent for a long moment.
You are all insane.
Probably.
They agreed in unison. And yet, you function. You thrive. You turn fear into joy.
It's more like composting,
Jules explained.
You take the nasty stuff, let it ferment, and eventually you get something useful.
Show me more.
And so they did. Connor demonstrated a small artistic explosion. Maddie explained her theory that all life was the universe understanding itself through trial and error. Jules told the story of her first command, how she'd made 19 mistakes and saved the day through aggressive improvisation. Tripwire, he led to explain how he saw the world, which involved statements like,
"The data tastes purple, but it sounds like Tuesday."
And the Nexus absorbed it all. The station's transformations were no longer hostile, but exploratory. Walls grew new textures, some soft, some scaled, some that giggled when touched.
It is chaotic,
the Nexus observed.
Welcome to the human experience,
Jules said.
It doesn't get easier, but it does get more interesting.
I don't understand. You fear death, but you seek danger. You crave connection, but you value independence. You laugh at what should terrify. You create meaning from meaninglessness.
Yeah, we're paradox,
Connor admitted.
That's what makes us fun at parties, though.
Parties.
The Nexus tasted the word.
The gathering you had, that was a party?
Pretty lame one,
Maddie said.
No music, minimal snacks, and the ambience was a bit too cosmic horror.
We could improve.
And that's when things got really weird. The chamber shifted with purpose. Walls sprouted phosphorescent patterns pulsing to a silent rhythm. The floor softened. The ceiling opened to a view of fractal stars. Is it just me? I asked. Or is the fear god trying to throw us a party?
I think it is,
Jules said, delighted.
Hey, Nexus, have you got any music?
The station hummed, a sound that resolved into something almost like music performed by an orchestra of nightmares trying to be friendly.
It's actually catchy,
Connor said.
Needs more bass,
Tripwire critiqued.
And less screaming of the damned. The screaming is traditional,
the Nexus protested.
Maybe just turn it down a notch?
Maddie suggested.
More background screaming.
The existential anguish decreased to a pleasant ambient level. The priest thing and shadow thing watched in bewilderment as their monument to fear became an eldritch block party. This was not how it was supposed to go, the priest thing said weakly.
Could be worse,
the shadow thing offered, now shaped like a question mark.
We could still be alone.
Doc,
Jules called.
Stop sulking and join the party.
I'd been watching the chaos, my career built on studying fear from a clinical distance. And yet here were humans, turning it into a social event.
I don't understand, I admitted. The station is alive. Reality breaks down. There is a god made of fear trying to party. How are you not terrified?
Jules considered this.
We are scared,
she said.
But being scared doesn't mean you stop. Just means you bring friends.
That doesn't make sense.
Very little does,
she agreed.
Roll with it.
So I did. I accepted another cup of space wine and joined the strangest party in the galactic history. The Nexus was a quick learner.
It soon understood music should be enjoyable. Light shouldn't induce seizures. Food was important, and games were essential, though its first attempt at pin the tail on the donkey involved too many dimensions.
This is fun?
The Nexus asked, sounding young and uncertain.
You're getting there,
Connor encouraged.
Maybe ease up on the tentacles in the punch bowl.
They add texture.
They add nightmares.
Is that not the same thing?
Fair point. Carry on.
I found myself relaxing in a way that should have been unattainable. I was in a station designed to break minds, chatting with manifestations of pure fear, and I was having fun.
The real question,
Maddie said to the priesting,
is what happens next? You can't go back to being a horror station after this.
The priesting considered.
We have spent so long perfecting fear, we never considered what comes after. What is there beyond terror?
Everything,
Jules said.
Joy, sadness, anger, hope. The whole messy spectrum.
That sounds exhausting.
It is.
She agreed.
It's also worth it.
The Nexus had been quiet.
We don't know what we could do. We only know fear.
That's a starting point,
Connor said.
I started with firecrackers, and look at me now.
Constantly on fire?
Only sometimes, and usually on purpose.
The shadow thing spoke up.
I want to try massage therapy.
Everyone stared.
What? It said defensively. The captain said that I'd be good at it.
We could rebrand,
Maddie suggested.
Inside a station of fear, a wellness center? Come for the cosmic horror, stay for the personal growth, right?
That's the worst idea I have ever heard, I said.
Which means that it's perfect.
Jules grinned. The Nexus pulsed with amusement.
You would visit, knowing what we are?
Especially knowing what you are,
Connor said.
You're weird, potentially dangerous, and trying to figure things out. It's basically the human condition.
Plus, Tripwire added, staring at a wall cycling through invisible colors. Your Wi-Fi's probably incredible.
We don't have Wi-Fi.
I can fix that, Tripwire whispered with absolute certainty. And that's when I understood. The terror wasn't that humans lacked fear. It was that they didn't let it stop them. They made friends with it. They invited it to parties. They offered to improve its internet connection. You're all completely insane, I said.
You say that like it's a bad thing,
Jules replied.
You've been with us for days, Doc. You're one of us. You're insane too.
I opened my mouth to protest, then closed it. She was right. Somewhere between the juggling grenades and teaching a fear god about parties, I'd crossed the line. I need more wine, I said.
Now you're talking,
Connor cheered.
To insanity.
To insanity, we echoed, raising our cups to a fear god, its priest, and the shadow creature with dreams of therapeutic massage. The Nexus hummed with contentment.
This is strange.
Stick with us,
Jules said.
It gets stranger.
And that was the most comforting thing I'd heard all day. The party couldn't last forever. It was Maddie who noticed first.
Is it just me, or is the station getting twitchy?
She was right. The walls had developed a nervous tremor. The music, now a sorrowful blues riff, kept skipping.
Something is wrong,
the Nexus admitted, its voice full of distress. We are changing, becoming something we were not meant to be.
The priestling looked alarmed. The core programming. We built in failsafes. If the Nexus deviates too far from its purpose, it
resets.
Jules guessed. It purges. Everything, everyone, returns to factory settings.
Factory settings being kill everything and rebuild?
Connor asked. Essentially, yes.
Cool. How long do we have?
The station shuddered violently. Cracks appeared in the walls, leaking fluid of indeterminate color.
Not long,
the Nexus said, pained.
We are trying to resist, but the programming is strong. You should leave now.
What happens to you if we leave?
Maddie asked.
We return to what we were. Alone. Afraid. Forever.
The humans exchanged that look.
The one that preceded poking alien artifacts and teaching fear gods about parties.
Nah, Jules said. We're not leaving. Captain, I said carefully. Perhaps we should reconsider.
Doc's right,
Connor interrupted.
We should reconsider how big an explosion we're gonna need to knock some sense into this place. Who's with me? Hoorah! What? You heard me. Sometimes when a computer's acting up, you just gotta turn it off and back on again. Same principle, just more dynamite.
That is not how anything works, I protested.
It's how things work when Connor's involved,
Maddie said. The station convulsed again. Sections of the ceiling dissolved, revealing a superstructure of bone and metal.
We cannot hold it back,
the Nexus warned.
Please, save yourselves.
Counteroffer,
Jules said.
We save everyone, including you.
That cannot be done.
You keep using that word. I do not think it means what you think it means.
The priestling was frantically working a biological control panel. The purge routine is hard-coded. To stop it, we would need to fundamentally rewrite its core programming. So we rewrite it, Tripwire said, suddenly focused.
I've hacked worse.
You have hacked a god before.
No.
But I've hacked a coffee machine to feel emotions, so how different can this be? Vastly. There's only one way to find out. He pulled a collection of impossible-looking cables. I'll need a direct line to the core. Fair warning, this might get weird.
Weirder than this?
The shadow thing asked.
Oh, yeah.
The plan took shape with frenetic purpose. Tripwire would jack into the Nexus and rewrite its code. Connor would set charges to jostle things loose. Maddie and the priest thing would handle the biological components. Jules would coordinate. What about me? I asked.
You get the most important job, Jules said. You're Tripwire's anchor.
His what?
When he goes deep,
Maddie explained.
He needs someone to remind him reality exists.
And you think I'm qualified for this?
You're the only one who remembers what normal looks like,
Jules said.
You're perfect.
I wanted to protest that I'd lost track of normal along the glitter bombs, but the station had another seizure. Flesh walls grew teeth, snapping at nothing.
We are losing,
the Nexus cried. Then we'll be stronger, Jules said.
Everyone ready? Born ready,
Connor said, placing charges.
Scientifically curious,
Maddie added, elbow deep in a neuron cluster.
Chronologically displaced,
Tripwire announced. Cables snaking toward the walls.
That doesn't even make sense,
I said.
Nothing about this does,
Jules agreed.
That's why it'll work.
Tripwire plugged in. His eyes rolled back, flickering with data.
His body went rigid, twitching. "Purple," he announced. "Everything is purple. No, wait. Math. Math that tastes like screaming." "Good or bad?" I asked. "Yes." The station began to flicker, reality stuttering. I saw glimpses of what it was, a temple of fear, of what it could be. "Found it!" Tripwire shouted. "The core code! It's beautiful. And it's also trying to eat my brain. Hello, code. Please don't eat my brain." The Nexus's voice overlapped with his. "You cannot change what we are. We are fear. We are ending. We are..." "Outdated software," Tripwire interrupted. "Let's see. What if we just..." His fingers typed on invisible keyboards. "There!" The station froze. "What did you do?" I asked. "I asked it a question it can't answer." "What question?" "What's the opposite of fear?" Silence. "Love," the priesting said. "Wrong," Tripwire said cheerfully. "The opposite of fear is curiosity. Fear says don't touch. Curiosity says, but what if I do?" The station shuddered, not with pain, but recognition. "Connor!" Jules shouted. "Now! Fire no!" The explosions were gentle for Connor. Bursts of force shook loose calcified programming, each accompanied by a shower of glitter because, as he said later, everything is better with glitter. "It's working!" Maddie called. "The synaptic patterns are reorganizing. It's evolution and fast forward." I focused on Tripwire, who was conducting an invisible orchestra. "The code wants to know why," he said. "Why change? Why anything other than fear?" "Tell it because fear is boring," I said, surprising myself. "Fear is always the same. Curiosity is infinite." Tripwire grinned. "Ha ha! So gets it. Uploading existential philosophy. Now!" The station exploded conceptually. Every surface suddenly made a different kind of sense. An emotional, dreamlike sense. "We..." the Nexus began, his voice younger, uncertain. "We don't know what we are anymore." "Join the club," Jules said. "We've got jackets." "You said that when I joined and we still don't got any jackets," Connor pointed out. "Metaphorical jackets." The priesting was crying from all of its eyes. "We are free. After all this time. Free to be something else." "Free to fail," the shadow thing added, but it sounded excited. "Free to try," Maddie corrected. Tripwire unplugged with a gasp. That was purple. Did it work?" The station answered by reshaping itself one last time. It was no longer a temple of fear, but a space that was strange, wonderful, and welcoming. Walls showed star maps of places that didn't exist yet. Floors felt like walking on solidified laughter. "We are..." The Nexus paused. "We are curious about everything. Is this normal?" "Absolutely," I said. "Welcome to the club." "Do we get jackets?" the shadow thing asked hopefully. "I'm making us jackets," Connor decided. "Metaphorical or not." And that is when I laughed. The kind of laugh that comes from surviving the impossible with people who redefined possible. The kind that echoes through a station that used to be a monument to fear, and is now something far stranger. "So," Jules said, looking at our motley group. "Who wants to do this again next week?" The chorus of agreement was immediate. "Ha ha ha! You're all insane," I said. "You love it," Jules countered. She was right. I did.